Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Yusuf Chinara, a profession manager in the standards department at IRBA. And I'm excited to have you here today and welcome you today to our Building a Future-Ready Small and Medium-Sized Practice webinar. Today, we will focus on an important segment of our profession, our small and medium-sized practices, or SMPs. SMPs, as you know, play a vital role in South Africa. They form part, the majority of the audit registered audit firms in the country. Your firms provide a wide and diverse range of clients, and you play a pivotal role in shaping and mentoring the future auditors or the next generation of audit professionals. However, as the landscape evolves, especially around technology and the use of and the need for audit quality, as well as the heightened protection of ethical conduct and audit quality, it become imperative for auditors to stay ahead. In today's webinar, it's designed to equip you with some insights on how to address some of these key areas to ensure that or help you practice flourish in this changing environment. Again, I would like to thank you for being with us today on this important journey, and we hope you leave today inspired and equipped with some new or fresh ideas on how to evaluate your practice. Please do allow me some time to go through some announcements. The first one is on the recording and the slides. Yes, we are recording today's event. The slides and the video will be shared with you via email. These will also be published on the IRBA's events page. With regard on a disclaimer, we'd like to note that the views shared by our esteemed guest speakers are their own views and do not necessarily reflect the views of the IRBA. This webinar or this event today is set to share knowledge and insights, and we encourage our speakers to speak freely. With regards to the CPD certificates, although your attendance today might count towards your CPD, we won't be issuing a CTB certificate for this event. With regards to the program and the flow of today's event, our agenda would now be displayed on the screen. We have 4 short sessions. The first one will be a keynote address by Naweed Lanani. Thereafter, we'll be exploring the opportunities as well as the risk of using AI and emerging technologies in audit practice. This will be moderated by Lynette Rudolphson. We will then take a short comfort break. When we return from the break, we'll have a presentation on an audit development program. That is, we will be unpacking the monitoring process and addressing any misconceptions. Thereafter, we'll have the influence of leadership in fostering an ethical organizational environment and the advantages associated with maintaining a healthy workplace culture. This will be led by Liesl Dupree. And then lastly, we'll have reflections as well as closing remarks from the Standards Team's Director, Sadia Adam. We are almost nearly there to start. Always, as at the IRB, we want you to make sure that you are able to participate in this event. So may I encourage you to let's please take the chat function. I invite everyone to please head over to the chat function and just type in the name or organization of your firm, please. Cool. So thank you. We got some next year at SMP. We got thanks a lot for those people that replied. We got Mazaz. Noted. Thank you. Thank you again, and thanks again for everyone joining today. And let's get started. So our first keynote speaker, our keynote speaker for today is Naweed Lanani. Naweed is a Director of Audit and Infrastructure Supervision at the Dubai's Financial Services Authority, the DFSA. He's a chartered accountant with an MBA. He has a broad experience in audit, risk, and especially regulatory oversight. He represents the DFSA in many international forums and was previously had many senior positions at EY and PwC. And we're really honored to have him here today with us. And Naveed, welcome, and over to you to start off for the day, please.
Thank you so very much, Yusuf. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my fellow regulators, and my fellow professional accountants, good afternoon today. It is really a great pleasure to be with you. And let me start by thanking the team at the Independent Regulatory Board for Auditors, IRBA, colleagues for inviting me, and for a very warm welcome. When Sadia, Adam, and I caught up briefly in Lisbon in September at the ISBA conference, we both probably didn't knew that our brief interaction would end up like this. When Sadia sent me a message to talk about this event, she also wrote in the message that lately she has been hearing my name a lot. I really got scared. I had to ask Sadia if it was all positive. Well, to cut the story short, here I am in front of so many passionate auditors and professionals. It's a real honor for me. IRB has already told you what I do, so thank you, Yusuf, for that, for my day job. But let me start by telling you what I am passionate about. But before that, I have to share this disclaimer. Next slide, please. Can we change the slides? Next slide. Okay, I still see the title slide. So, Yusuf. Yes, now here we are. So yes, Yusuf gave the disclaimer that the views are my own and not of IRBA, but the views are of my own and not that of the DFSA as well. Well, my name is Naveed, and I'm passionate about innovative regulation. Next slide. Public interest enthusiast and a numismatist. Just yesterday, I was speaking at an event with room full of 500 financial institutions, and part of the presentation was to educate them how to select auditor, how to appoint auditor, what are the do's and don'ts of an auditor appointment. During the event, one of the gentlemen came to me and said that we both are connected on LinkedIn, but he wanted to ask me, what is being numismatist mean? I answered, I collect coins, and that really is a great hobby. Many people know my passion about audit regulators, audit regulation, but only few know how it all started. Next slide, please. I'll wait for the slide to change. There is a picture there. Yeah, thank you. So this picture is from my very early days in my audit regulation. You can see I have aged over the years. This was taken at Washington, D.C. in around 2010 or 2011. Any guesses for the person I'm standing next to? If you have any wild guesses, throw it in the chat. I'll have a look. I'll stop for 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Still not responses. Okay, this gentleman is no other than late US Senator Paul Sarbanes, the co-author of the famous Sarbanes-Oxley Act. The Oxley Act went into force in year 2002. I was fortunate to meet the honorable senator on 2 different occasions. Yes, somebody writes Senator Sarbanes, that's correct, on 2 different occasions. And I was motivated by his enthusiasm. And till date, I have the same picture framed on my desk, which I look at every day. Can you believe that in my first meeting, I told him that as a student, I hated him the most. Because of him, we had to learn about all the SOX requirements. But when I became the regulator, I loved him the most because of him, the independent regulation started. Prior to that, the regulation was sitting with the professional accountancy bodies. So the likes of IRBA and the DFSA, the both independent audit regulators, we were born because of the vision of this gentleman. Next slide, please. So while the slide changes, over the next few minutes, I'll discuss with you the essentials of a future-ready small and mid-sized practitioners. In an era of rapid change, where the audits are not just a compliance exercise, but a cornerstone of public trust in the financial markets, the conversation could not be more timely. Your presence here underscores the collaborative spirit that is essential for the health of our profession. So let's talk about the SMP growth or the mid-tier growth and its impact on audit quality. Globally, over the past decade, the SMPs have expanded their footprints significantly, and they are taking on more complex engagements and filling critical gaps in many markets, including South Africa, including Dubai. The growth is not accidental. It stems from SMP's agility, understanding of local markets, and ability to provide tailored services. In certain markets, the mid-tier firms have thrown one of the largest firms to number 5 position and has taken a seat at the top 4 table. From a regulatory standpoint, I view this expansion as a positive force for competition and diversity in the audit landscape. It promotes resilience in the profession and ensures that the audit quality is not concentrated in the hands of a few. Next slide, please. I'm sure we are familiar with the famous dialogue from the movie Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. One of my favorite all-time dialogue. But can we move to the next slide as well? But I've modified it for today's purpose, and I would say that with great growth comes great responsibility. I expect SMPs to scale not just in size, but also in sophistication, maintaining the high standards that safeguard investor confidence and economic stability. Next slide, please. So at the center stage is audit quality. I view audit quality as the game of Chinese whispers or its British version, telephone. And I'm sure as a child, we all have played this game in one form or the other. So I speak to top tier audit firms, I speak to mid-tier audit firms, I speak to their global leaders. And when I talk to them, they are very clear on the purpose of audit. It's crystal clear for them that what audit is. But when I review the working papers, and I'm sure other regulators like such as IRBA as well, the message is often distorted. So it's very similar to the game of Chinese whisper. When you start at one end, by the time the message goes to the lower end, the person who is doing the actual work, it does not reflect on the audit working papers. Do you know what is common element in both audit and Chinese whispers? People. So if you move to the next slide, please, we'll talk about human capital. So this brings me to heart of capacity building, investing in people and ensuring the scalability with upholding consistent audit quality. In my view, the strength of an auditor lies in its human capital. SMPs must prioritize recruitment, training, and retention strategies that attract top talent. This means offering competitive career paths, continuous professional development, and the work-life balance initiative. But investment in people goes beyond the headcount. It's about fostering a learning environment where auditors are equipped to handle evolving complexities from IFRS updates to crypto assets to artificial intelligence. Scalability is another key pillar. As your client base grows, so must your ability to deliver high quality audits efficiently without compromising on the quality. I've observed that SMPs often excel in niche areas, but scaling requires great system and processes. This includes adopting standardized methodologies that ensure consistency across engagements, regardless of the team size. From a regulatory lens, consistent audit quality is non-negotiable. Our inspections have revealed that inconsistencies often arise from inadequate resource allocation or over-reliance on manual processes and key individuals. To counter this, auditors should invest in scalable infrastructure. Remember, regulators are not just enforcers. We encourage SMPs to engage with us on quality management systems, such as those outlined in ISQM1, to build resilient frameworks that support sustainable growth. Sustainable audit fees is one critical element for delivering high quality audits and directly impacts your firm's ability to build capacity. Fee compression driven by undercutting to win clients undermines the audit quality at entry level. You should be in no doubt you cannot build your capacity, you cannot build your people or your firms while making losses on new clients. You cannot invest in new technology when you are in the race to bottom. Sustainable audit fees are the foundation to upskilling your people, integrating new technologies, and staying competitive. Next slide, please. We'll talk now about technical competence, a domain where SMPs have immense potential to shine. Building technical competence is not about just memorizing auditing standards. It's about cultivating critical thinking skills that enable auditors to navigate ambiguity and make sound judgments. In our inspections, we emphasize the need for auditors to question assumptions, evaluate auditor evidence rigorously, and apply professional skepticism. This critical thinking is the bedrock of high quality audit, especially in respect of new business models and technologies. Next slide, please. But with technical competence today, it also demands that we need to embrace AI and technology, tools that are not the exclusive domain of the larger firms. And when I was looking at the list of people who have joined, I see certain participants from the larger firms. So welcome. SMPs with your inherent flexibility are perfectly positioned to integrate these innovations. AI-powered analytics can automate routine tasks, such as casting, reconciliations, freeing up time for deeper analysis. Alongside our fellow regulators at the International Forum of Independent Audit Regulators, IFIAR, where ourselves and IRBA both are members of, we are actively monitoring on how firms adopt these technologies. The key is to use them ethically and effectively, ensuring that AI augments human judgment rather than replacing it. Governance in the use of technology is fundamental. Without an effective governance system, these technologies have potential to explode. Audit is all about dealing with confidential client data, which could be market and price sensitive. Without effective controls and the governance framework, auditors could expose their clients to unintended consequences of these emerging technologies. Explainability is another feature which, as a regulator, I would like to witness in these tech. The increased complexity of AI models make it more difficult to interpret their decision-making process. As a result, such models are often referred as black boxes. In our risk assessments, when we inquire about the explainability of the tools being used as part of the audits, the team on the grounds have limited idea on how these tools actually work. From my perspective, failing to invest in these areas will take you backwards. The larger audit firms might be able to invest in these technology with some ease, but the SMPs can leapfrog by being nimble, adopting open source tools, or collaborating on shared tech platforms. Ultimately, the technical competence leveled up with technology will ensure that SMP audits are as robust as any other. Next slide, please. Let me now turn to a prevailing trend in the international market, private equity investment or third-party investments in audit firms. In recent days, we have observed an influx of these investments in SMP audit firms globally. Where these investments bring risk to the profession, there is certainly an upside to the deal as well. These investments allow the firms to invest in technology and methodology, which in turn can improve audit quality significantly. At the same time, it brings the risk of scaling back from regulated audit market in favor of lucrative consulting business. I understand that there are restrictions in place in South Africa, but these third-party investors are finding creative ways to get into the systems outside of the national legislation. So this is something to keep an eye. Next slide, please. Equally important is audit culture. Culture is the invisible force that drives behavior within audit firms, and from a regulatory point of view, it's often the root cause of both success and failure. A strong audit culture prioritizes integrity, accountability, and ethical decision making. It encourages speaking up about concerns, rewards quality over quantity, and embeds a tone at the top that cascades through every level. In our inspections, we have noted that SMPs have often faced cultural challenges due to resource constraint, leading to pressures that could compromise independence, diligence, or quality. To build a resilient culture, leaders must model the behaviors they expect, fostering an environment where learning from mistakes is valued over perfection. Next slide, please. So the International Ethics Board for Accountants, ISBA, and my fellow colleagues from IRBA, Sadia Adam is on the board there. In its September 2024 board meeting, presented an initial map of factors impacting audit firm governance and culture, which we all can take help from. There are a number of elements here, such as role of profession and public interest, the role of leadership within the firm, the governance framework of the firm, rewards and recognition for the staff, the transparency of the decisions being made at the firm level, education and training, and the culture of concentration and challenge. Remember, a positive audit culture not only mitigates risk, but enhances reputation, attracting clients and talents alike. Next slide, please. One area which really concerns me a lot, not only as audit regulator, but also as a professional accountant myself, is the attractiveness of the profession. There is a decline in many jurisdictions in intake of accounting graduates or entrants for the CPA exam. Academics and recruiters say sluggish salaries and tough requirements to become a certified public accountant are dampening the demand for accounting degrees and discouraging graduates from pursuing accounting career. Consider a time forward in 10, 15 years when we don't have sufficient staff who can challenge the results coming out from AI and put a pen to paper to sign an audit opinion. Professional bodies can play a vital role here. Their curricula and continuous education offerings must evolve to include tech-focused competence, such as data analytics and cybersecurity awareness. The accounting qualification itself needs to be revamped, considering the current interest of younger generation. Next slide, please. Regulators have a fundamental role in this regard as well. We, the regulators, create the culture that foster growth and ensures the guardrails around it. In September this year, the Financial Reporting Council in the UK announced a new initiative aimed at bolstering the capabilities and quality management of smaller audit firms, seeking to expand their footprint in the UK public interest entity audit sector. In August this year, the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, the PCOB in the US, announced the formation of the Smaller Firm Resource Group, an advisory group of professionals from smaller audit units. Today's webinar is a great example on how IRBA is contributing towards the growth of SMPs in South Africa. You will note that a very important element is missing from the future-ready SMP. This is ethics. To me, it's everywhere and it cannot be boxed. So whatever you do, don't let go the ethics of doing business away. Next slide, please. So before I close, I want to briefly touch upon the Kubler-Ross change curve. I'll wait for the curve to come in. Next slide, please. Thank you. So whenever you will try to make changes to your organization, whether you're trying to implement ISQM for the first time, when you're trying to digitize your process, you're trying to aim for efficiencies, or you will pass through, you have to go through the whole curve process. So whenever you are ready, I would invite you to engage on this journey, embark on this journey, and go through it. The sooner you do it, it's better for you. Next slide, please. So this is a beautiful building in Dubai called Museum of the Future. I see it every day from my office desk. When I turn right, I can see it. I can see it right now as well. The museums are all about the past. The same way the audit is about looking at the past year of performance. But Dubai has taken a new dimension on the way museums should be. And these museums look into the future. In my view, the audit of the future will not be the same. It will not be looking at the past. We will have to embrace the technology. We will have to embrace the changes which the profession is putting on us so that we are ready for the audit of the future. Next slide, please. That's my cue as well, Yusuf. Thank you. Thank you for your time and attention today. I really hope that you will find today's event useful and insightful. I encourage all of you to take opportunity to engage with the topics and take whatever you have heard back to your firms. There is no one size fits all solution for capacity building, audit culture, and sustainable audit fees. Developing an approach that works for your firm is vital, and you cannot afford to get it wrong. Thank you again, IRBA. Thank you again, everyone who listened to me. Thank you for inviting me. It's really an honor and pleasure to be here. Thank you.
From my side and on behalf of our team, thank you, Naveed. I really appreciated your presentation and for sharing your global insights on building a future-ready practice. I think your emphasis on growth, audit quality, and the evolving role of technology really provides us with a strong foundation for today's discussions. I thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Our next session explores the opportunities and risk of AI and emerging technologies in the audit process or practice. Addressing this or the moderating this part of the session will be Lynette Rudolphson. She's a chartered accountant and a registered auditor with around 29 years of experience. Lynette is a partner at Forbes Mazars. She's part of the National Quality and Risk Management team, and Lynette is also a member of the IRBA's Committee for Auditing Standards. Lynette, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, Yusuf, and thank you for that kind introduction. When you say 29 years, it does sound like a heck of a long time. And sometimes it's even for me a shock to realize it's been 29 years. And welcome everybody to this session on exploring the opportunities and risks associated with the adoption of AI and other new technologies in audit practice. Having listened to what Naveed has been saying in the keynote, I really cannot emphasize enough the importance of AI and technology as being one of our essential tools of a future-ready small medium practice in South Africa and also worldwide. Today, I am very fortunate to be able to introduce to you two very esteemed gents that will be sharing some of their insights on AI and emerging technologies panels. On the panel, and the one gent that we are talking to is Andrew Alt, and then notwithstanding the fact that he is from an alphabetical perspective first, we are also looking, and we're also going to have Christian Steyn talking to us as part of this panel. Now, Andrew Alt has a very interesting job title, and I really do like it. He is the Chief Imagination Officer at DraftWorks. He is a CA, a professional accountant, and a registered auditor, and he spends his days envisioning the accounting practice of tomorrow and ensuring DraftWorks is at the heart of it. He brings a wealth of experience from his years as a partner at a mid-tier accounting firm, and he knows just how transformative the right technology can be, especially for our small and medium enterprises. He's a firm believer that curiosity is a superpower, and it's a mindset that reflects in his diverse pursuits. Welcome, Andrew, and we're looking forward to your presentation just now.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. And then we also have Christian Steyn. He is a product executive at Caseware Africa. He's also an associate general accountant in South Africa with extensive knowledge and a passion for technology. His journey in the world of accounting and technology began during his tenure also at a medium-sized audit firm. I see both gents are from a medium-sized audit firm background, where he honed his skills and gained invaluable experience across diverse industries. Christian's unique blend of financial acumen and technological skills makes him an invaluable asset to the broader accounting community. Welcome, Christian.
Thanks, Lynette.
Thank you. And then without further ado, let me introduce Andrew to you, and over to you for your presentation. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you very much. We've all been given a brief time to discuss our products and what we're doing. But I didn't want to start off without sort of bringing some basic introductions into how we view AI. Next slide, please. So I think, as with any tool, I'm very AI positive, but I'm not AI hype positive, because I think, as with any tool, you must use it where it makes sense. For example, a calculator is a fantastic tool. It's really excellent at adding up numbers or multiplying or using arithmetic, but putting your calculator in your pocket when you go and make coffee doesn't make the coffee or the calculator any better. And I think that there is so much hype around AI, and there's so much misinformation about AI that people get confused. And I want to really, really not dumb it down, but I want to bring it back to its essentials. So I think, first of all, when you start seeing people selling kettles that have got AI in it, you know the thing is overhyped. So we at DraftWorks, and it's our philosophy that accounting firms and auditing firms should use AI where it makes sense. There are really, really great places to use AI, and we strongly recommend that you use them in those spaces. But there are places where you shouldn't be using AI and you should be staying away from it because it introduces additional risk to you. Next slide, please. So we say start with a small wins, start with a quick wins. And there are a plethora of AI tools out there. But it's important to understand that all of the tools have got elements in common, and you have to upskill yourself to understand what is available. Okay. So you need to understand that AI is data driven, and particularly large language models, which and agentic AI are driven very strongly by data. And understand that data and privacy are not always compatible. A good example is as follows. If you want to train an AI model, you need to obtain data. And often that data is garnered from people who are using free AI tools. So if you say, oh, I'm an accounting firm or I'm an auditing firm and I don't use AI, I've got terrible news for you. You actually are, and you're using it in the worst possible way. Your first year clerks are probably using ChatGPT or Claude or another large language model, and they're putting client information into LLMs. Now, that information is used to train the LLM, but it's not private. If you go and have a look at almost any AI tool that is publicly available and free, the price that you are paying for that is the data that you're giving it. So you immediately have ethical problems when it comes to that. So the first question you need to ask yourself when you're looking at an AI tool is, what data is it using? Where is that data coming from? How safe is my data? The second thing you need to ask yourself is, where's my data being stored? Obviously, in most jurisdictions, particularly in South Africa, where we have POPIA, you have to make sure that your client information is stored within the bounds of the Republic. And therefore, it's important to know, where is the data actually being stored. The other thing to remember is that you need to keep a very, very close eye on your data, because sharing it in LLM makes it available to anyone else who hits the right query and finds what you need. So data location is incredibly important. Next slide. Not just because of regulation, but because of control. Where do you put that data? How do you control it? It speaks to your firm as to how you view data as a resource. So those are the base considerations we believe you should have in place. That you should be thinking about AI in terms of, what is the biggest risk that this AI has for me? There are other risks, but I think data privacy is one that it immediately butts up against. How is AI being used in my firm, and is it being used in a way that maintains data privacy? So we want to introduce you to Siphon, which is our AI auditing add-on. And we're going to look at what we consider to be safer uses for AI. We try and keep the data local. We try and keep the data under your control. And when we say local, you can even run it on your own machine, as opposed to somewhere in the web where you don't know where it is. And we also put bounds on it. It's important to put bounds on what you can and what you can't do. We want to stay away from AI being the thing that makes the decision. AI is excellent at giving you insights, giving you information. But remember, I never want to be in a place where I have to defend my professional opinion when my professional opinion is actually an AI prompt. You're going to have a very, very tough time convincing people that that's repeatable. So the best places to use AI is where you have repetitive tasks like document matching, where you have things that are either a yes or no, very definitive, black or white. Is this total, agree to that total? And also in spaces where there is repeatability. So we're going to run a short video, of what Siphon can do. And we think that these are the best uses currently for AI for small and medium practices. Obviously, there are advanced tools of similar natures built bespoke, but we think that this is something that can be used by most small firms. Next slide, please. And if you could run the video. So whilst you're waiting for that to start, what can Siphon do?
Sorry, Andrew.
Okay.
We have run out of time on your side. We will share these slides. Maybe we can wrap up in a few seconds, and then we can give over to Christian, please.
Okay, sure. No problem. So we think that data extraction, data matching, asking and reviewing, and document comparison is the best place to go for AI type tools. The video is 3 minutes long. If you can run it, great. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for that presentation. It seems like we won't be able to run the video at this point in time, but I'm sure that it will be uploaded and then everybody can have a look. So thank you for that informative session on AI, and specifically also the security around it, and that it's important not to just think that there's something that you can use and it will be all right and good from the beginning. So thank you for that. On that note, over to Christian.
Thanks, Lynette. Good afternoon, everyone. First, a heartfelt thank you to each of you for being here today. As Lynette said, I'm Christian Stein, the Product Executive at Caseware Africa, and I look forward to telling you also a little bit about what we've been busy with. So if we go into the next slide, I think some of you might know, some of you might not, but Caseware really has a cloud-forward vision, which really means that we're focusing on reimagining our existing desktop products and moving them to cloud. We also want to make sure that we set clear goals for our new cloud products and integrations, and equally important is our commitment to desktop. So at Caseware Africa, we plan to navigate both the desktop as well as cloud worlds, while with cloud, we're embracing the opportunities of AI and continuing to invest in the desktop products as well. So today we'll be looking at 3 of the AI solutions we currently have at Caseware, and if we can go to the next slide, we'll look at IDA, Extractly, and Validate. So for IDA, it is an AI-powered digital assistant, and I think Andrew mentioned it as well. We don't want the AI to make any of the decisions. Our IDA application is really a digital assistant to help in the audit and accounting fields. It integrates artificial intelligence with the Caseware platform to really enhance productivity, compliance, and precision in professional workflows. If we go to the next slide, please, you will see that we have a simplified visual that is really meant to illustrate a practical objective on how IDA can be applied to within the audit. And that is to increase the quality of the work done by early stage professionals. And that we believe will create overall engagement efficiency. So we are driving to make certain second-year tasks done by first years and certain third-year tasks done by second years. And then also, we might even be able to bring third-year tasks into the second-year category by the features of allowing firms to upload their own content into the IA tool, which we believe will be driving early stage quality. So if we think about some of the tasks that a second year does is executing more complex analytics, prepare walkthrough documents, draft client queries, all of those things can now move to first year. And that opens the second year up to do more complicated work, such as selecting appropriate audit procedures or reviewing more challenging working papers, contributing to the scoping of risk using AI then as well. And then by integrating firm policies into the working papers and into the digital assistant, you can almost move the firm policies into a first year, because they can go and ask the AI any questions that they need to know about the firm's methodologies, policies, and procedures, and the assistant will be able to answer them. So for all of you wondering, if we go to the next slide, IDA really provides a powerful support from the engagement content aware guidance all the way through to all of the applications that we have within the Caseware ecosystem. And it is already available in all of the Caseware platforms. And for those of you that do own the cloud platform license, it is already available for free upon request. If we move to the next slide, then we will start looking at Caseware Extractly. Caseware Extractly is an Excel-based plugin that allows you to match documents and segments of several of the source type data directly to your Excel work papers. So some of you might be considering a tool to assist with automation of working papers and to eliminate manual rekeying. With an AI-powered PDF tool and image extraction, we can convert unstructured data into an Excel-ready format, and Extractly can save a significant amount of time for manual working paper typing. So as you can see, we've been really pushing innovation to drive user efficiency and quality, but we're doing that in a safe way. So let's quickly have a look at the next slide and a video on what Extractly can do.
Seeing Caseware Extractly, a built-in Excel solution for smarter audit testing and faster verification with cloud storage, so your first years can work like your third years. It's simple to get started. Download Extractly and launch it from the ribbon, right inside your substantive testing working papers in Excel. Upload your source documents, like invoices and bank statements in bulk. Extractly keeps everything organized and easily accessible. Matching is easy. Extractly automatically extracts fields like invoice numbers, dates and amounts from the source documents, to testing details in Excel in the sequence of your choice, eliminating any manual rekeying while reconciling. Click any extracted value in Excel to instantly highlight its source in the document, saving hours of toggling and searching across hundreds of files during audit testing.
If we go to the next slide, you'll really see that Extractly allows you to update a PDF or image, convert it, select, match and verify, and review and analyze. That allows you to export and share. The next product we'll look at if we go to the next slide is Caseware Validate, which is another advancing capability we've introduced as part of the tool. And it does four things. It reviews mathematical accuracy, compares the face of financials to the notes, compares to the prior year to the current year, and handles all the back and forth edits to keep track between the different versions. So if we move on to the next slide, we can quickly see what Extractly can do for your firm.
Introducing Caseware Validate, an AI-powered financial statement review solution that automates accuracy checks as you work from draft to final version. Getting started is easy. Upload or drag and drop your financial statements into Validate. No setup, no templates. Validate's AI automatically recognizes prior year versions and subsequent versions. Validate's AI capabilities runs thousands of pre-built checks. Mathematical accuracy, internal and prior period consistency, version comparison, multi-entity, and spell check.
Thank you. So if we move to the next slide, you can see that Validate uploads the financial statements in a PDF format. AI auto-run thousands of checks, identify and resolve discrepancies, compare any versions, as well as finalize. If we then move into the next slide, I think one thing that comes to mind when we talk about AI is this quote by Bill Gates, which says we always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change will occur in the next 10. And if we move into the next slide, I think I want to leave you with 3 ideas for changes ahead. So on the next slide, you will see what we think will not change is the need for productivity growth, the world's needs for finance professionals. But what will change is the work of today and the possibilities of tomorrow. And what we believe you should do is to execute on automation everywhere where you can, as well as empower your employees with the tools and techniques for tomorrow. Thanks, Lynette. Back to you.
Thank you, Christian. I must say the auditor in me now just wants to start playing around with all these tools. So thank you both, gentlemen, for your presentations. I think there is definitely food for thought in there and some opportunities and options for our auditors and our practitioners out there to be in contact with you around those. So as we move into this panel discussion, I want us to focus on some critical questions around technology and the opportunities and the risks associated with artificial intelligence and other new technologies. Like, are we ready to adopt these new technologies? Are man and machine the new ultimate order team? And how do we work around limitations, maintain professional skepticism, and ensure ethics and data safety? The use of artificial intelligence is clearly not just about adopting tools. It's about shaping a future where innovation and integrity go hand in hand. So I want to ask you, Andrew, firstly, what steps can a firm, a audit firm or audit and assurance firm take to bridge the generational gap in technology adoption amongst their staff?
Look, I think that the first thing is a lot of it has got to do with attitude. I think that one of the key things that we as auditors and accountants need to do is we need to be curious. We need to be constantly up to date in terms of policies like CPD, etc. But I think it goes further than that. It goes further into being genuinely interested in what is happening in terms of technology. I hesitate to say it, but I think it's true that if you are not trying to understand some of the technology, and you don't have to have an in-depth view, but you have to have a basic understanding of what these technologies are trying to achieve, I think you're going to have a real problem demonstrating that you actually are doing continual professional development, because the auditing area has become a real target for really effective tools, and it's important for you to educate yourself. I think be curious about it is the first thing. That's what I would say.
Thank you for that. And when you mention curious, you're not just referring to the staff, you are referring to us older people as well.
Yes, oh, for
Yeah,
definite, yeah.
definitely.
No, age is just a mindset. You know, you can be very
True.
old when you're young and young when you're very old.
True. Now I agree with that 100%. And Christian, if you now have to think about the key considerations or prerequisites before an audit firm can think about embracing new technologies and AI, what will those key considerations be?
Lynette, I think there's basically three key fundamentals that a firm must put in place before they even consider AI. And I think it is really a structured process. If the firm's methodology is inconsistent, AI really accelerate chaos, to be honest, because if you haven't standardized the documentation and stabilized the workflows to first identify key areas where AI can assist, then your workflow and methodology will be quite messy. Then if you think about data, discipline, and hygiene, Andrew mentioned it in his introduction as well. AI is only as good as the data you feed it. Firms really must ensure that they get clean, complete, and traceable data sources, especially when they start working with trial balance and journals. And I think lastly, governance and change management. If there's no accountability assigned within the firm and no one really owns the technological rollout and manage that adoption to monitor risk, it's not really going to work. So without leadership sponsorship, there will be a lot of money spent on the tools, but ultimately they will become what we call shelfware and no one really uses it. So I think AI really amplifies the maturity, but if the foundation is weak, the risk will just multiply and firms will get in trouble. So those would be my three fundamentals I would focus on first if I was a firm.
Thank you for that. And I think also, you know, it's important that we don't see AI as the answer to everything. It is an enabling tool and a supporting tool to make sure that we can apply and use our audit methodologies, our approaches, our tools that we have more effectively and efficiently. And thank you for sharing that information as well. And then maybe as a follow-up question, Christian, what steps do you think can a firm take to foster a culture of openness and trust and enable your staff to embrace these new technologies while, very important, maintaining professional skepticism?
I mean, you mentioned curiosity and you started off with saying everyone needs to be curious. So I think we need to start leading from the front. Partners must start using these tools themselves. And then I think staff will follow behavior. It doesn't help you send out a memo instructing everyone to use AI, but as a partner or as a collective, you don't use it. So if I think about an example that we started doing is when we get something as a management team, we always ask for the person providing it, have you used AI? Did you rewrite it using technical guidance? Did you ask the question, what was the feedback you got? And then I will answer your question. So did you consult first, and then you can give some additional advice? And I think also, if a firm implements AI, be transparent about why. It's not replacing us as auditors. It is reducing our work, it's improving quality and protecting the firm, as well as helping staff. But they shouldn't be scared to now use AI and then they will get fired. I think it's the other way around. And then by saying that, I think we should also build psychological safety. Staff really must feel comfortable, first of all, challenging the AI output and saying, I don't agree with the output, but also discussing it with senior personnel. And I think by doing this, staff will understand the professional skepticism also that needs to come first. And I think one of the biggest changes that I see happening within firms is really we need to start helping the managers and the reviewers with skills and guidance on how to review more work quicker. Because juniors, as an example, can very quickly generate vast amounts of working papers by using AI, but without them understanding the output. And then you have a reviewer sitting there reviewing all of these notes and letters, knowing that they're reviewing AI-generated content. So I think as part of the change management, reviewers will have to think about different ways of reviewing. How do they review working papers? And a tip is we basically just ask our staff, did you use AI? What prompt did you give it? Did you do any re-prompts? What was the output? And then just explain to me what the output was. And if they can clearly explain that to you, then you get quite a high level of confidence in their work. But if they're unfamiliar with the work, then you can send them back and say, maybe go review it first. So I think having a trusting culture and accelerate that adoption, but be fearful if you don't have that culture.
Thank you for that. And Andrew, maybe to put you a little bit on the spot, I know Christian specifically started with saying that we need to lead from the front. You have to walk the talk. Would you agree with what he has said in terms of the steps? Do you feel there's something in addition that that one can do within a firm?
I think certainly in my experience, I would echo a lot of what Christian said, but I think I would start by saying document your processes. It's shocking to me often how firm principals, how different things actually happen from how firm principals think they happen. And that's general processes, not just audit. I think that's vitally important. And I think that we need to embrace the benefits of intelligent use of AI. Once again, where it's appropriate, because there are so many places where it's been used where it's patently not appropriate. And that for me is you need to know enough as a principal as to what you should not be doing. You don't need to know the absolute detail of how to generate every prompt and how to do prompt engineering, but you should be knowing where should we be staying away, because this is not what AI is good at.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. I think, at the end of the day, it comes down to, within an auditing environment, one always have to have professional skepticism. And I believe that that skill will never be, an AI or any tool or any data will never be able to replace that. And, for me, that is what future ready SMPs needs to consider and be mindful of, is that you have your professional skepticism that will never go away, but use tools and AI to support that and to make it easier to spend the right amount of time on your professional skepticism and using that collative information that you got by collating it from the AI and the prompting, etc. Yeah. So we are all agreeing. It's wonderful. It's not always that we agree in the space of auditing. If we look at integration and the use of AI in an audit practice, Andrew, can the AI tools help detect anomalies, such as AI-generated invoices, or do you think it has some fraud detection capabilities, which is very imperative and important within an audit environment?
Look, I think it depends on what tool you're using. That's the first thing. The second thing is that there's an arms race out there. As quickly as people are building AI tools that search source documents, there are people building AI engines that produce spurious, fake, enhanced AI documents, and that's an arms race that's going to continue. There's going to be a massive emphasis in trying to determine what is real. I mean, the music you listen to, you don't know if it's created by a human. You got a 50-50 chance. The videos you're watching, you also don't have a chance, so the tools have become so pervasive and so powerful that it's very, very difficult to begin to detect what is AI used. And any decent audit-based software that is using an AI space needs to have the capability to at least flag what it considers to be anomalous documents. Certainly, Safin does. And it's difficult because these things are getting more and more sophisticated. But yeah, almost certainly. I think there is going to be a big move for AI in fraud elements. I think what it's going to do is it's going to detect potential problems, but there's still going to have to be a human involved to actually make the final determination as it becomes more sophisticated.
Yeah, and what I can hear from that is it's very important that when we investigate tools that's out there and AI, the use of AI, we need to never forget the fact that this is not, this is not a human. There are these capabilities of an AI that can sort of override anything that you would believe to be true, but it is important that we keep our professional skepticism, even in researching and deciding on what type of tools we want to use, and not just take the first and the best thing that is out there. Yeah, definitely. And Christian, what do you think, or does AI actually play a role in reducing manual errors? We are having all these sort of challenges and risks and concerns, but is there actually some efficiency and effectiveness in terms of using AI when it comes to manual errors?
Yeah, Lynette, I think humans is not generally good at doing the grunt work stuff like recapturing, comparing, reconciling, matching. We much more like to be creative. So tasks that humans typically get wrong under pressure is things that AI can really do much better than us. So I think by integrating AI into your audit cycle, and don't create parallel workflows, you can really integrate it in to do some of those tasks that people don't enjoy doing and generally get wrong. And I think high volume, anything repeatable that's rule-based, that AI can do. But I do think if it is integrated, we should always still keep humans accountable. Reviewers must challenge those outputs. They couldn't just rubber stamp them. And I think AI does have the ability to add efficiency, but audit quality ultimately still sits and rests on human judgment.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. And I like the reference to audit quality as well. Being in quality and risk myself, if you speak the words quality, I get excited. So it is important that we remind ourselves about that as well. And maybe a question to both of you, gents, and we can start with you, Andrew. How do you believe the auditor can ensure the authenticity of the information? And what type of safeguards, other than what we've potentially also mentioned already, should a firm put in place? Are they sort of pre-designed type of safeguards, or would it be something that is creatively having to be think about and thought about, on an individual case-by-case basis?
Well, look, the most obvious one is where you're getting the data.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really like common sense is just that. It's common. It's not rocket science. We've always had to test completeness of data. We've always had to be clear as to where is it coming from. Is it agreeing?
Yeah.
So I think that before we unleash AI on the data, let's be clear as to what is the data, where is it coming from, what system is producing it. Let's document that and be clear on it. I think the other thing that's very important is you need to have guardrails. You need to have a policy or a decision about how are you going to document these data considerations in your files, because they're going to become incredibly important when those decisions are challenged. And I think that for me, a good framework, a good policy for understanding how the data is, where it comes from, is important. And also understanding that in the same way that in the old days clients used to fudge records, they are now got the ability to use our tools to fudge transactional records within the systems. And one of the things that I have seen is that there's a lot of blind trust in saying, well, it's come out of an electronic ledger, it's got to be accurate. Not necessarily, and I think you always have to ask yourself is how am I sure that the data that I've got is genuine, and documenting that trail of where it comes from, who has had access to it. The good old-fashioned general application controls. I mean, those things have become increasingly important as we become more data rich. And I think the other opportunity that we really have with AI is all the data telling us the same story. You can use advanced analytics to say, well, look, the financial information is telling us this. Is this the same information that's been told to us by the marketing system? Do the trends that are coming out of their warehousing, does it make sense in terms of that? So I think the opportunity for AI to help validate data is there, because now size of data is actually not a problem. You can go and fetch diverse and multiple data sources and begin to ask yourself, run analytics on and say, is all of this data telling the same story? Or is my general ledger telling me a very different story from what the other information that I have, the so-called non-financial information, is telling me? I think that that's a key area for analytics.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, you also now has me thinking about how the principle of, in auditing and in the standards, the principle of you also need to be aware of the contradicting information, and not just focus and pray you will get, agreeing confirmation or agreeing information. You need to be able to also look at the other side, like you now rightly said, and maybe with having now to look at AI and using that, and not having to put your mind into this detailed documentation to try and figure out what is the contradictions, will actually be very, very effective for us as auditors. I don't know, Christian, do you agree with that?
I do, Lynette, and I think I'll kind of start by saying never outsource skepticism to a machine. I think that is always part of what we need to do. We spoke a little bit about source verification, pulling the data directly from the independent sources where we can, and I think with AI it's even more possible. In the past, maybe Excel was a bit too small, we couldn't get all the information in, we had one source of data, we had a report. But now we can go back to the source, like to the actual accounting package, the big database, and actually start understanding it. And I mean, as auditors, we're familiar with triangulation. So cross-checking documents, looking at metadata, checking it with client explanations, not just taking one to the other and really thinking about it. And I think AI is also very good at highlighting anomalies, but as auditors, we are great at validating them. So if you get these exceptions, actually go and validate them. And I think ultimately the principle remains unchanged. You can trust, but you should verify always.
Yeah, corroborate is the word. Yeah, thank you for that. And I think maybe also just here for all of the attendees to note, and Yusuf, thank you for sharing the link. You will be sharing the link to the document. IRBA has quite recently issued a staff practice alert specifically on AI and the use of generative AI within the audit approach and within the audit environment. And I think it is definitely a piece of documentation or a piece of paper that all of us that is on this call can go and have a look at. It gives you a lot of thinking or a lot of ideas and suggestions and challenges around how we can actually use generative AI, more effectively and efficiently within an audit environment. And thank you, Yusuf. I see you've put the link on. Maybe if we go to another topic around a very important topic, and Naveed also referred to ethics being sort of ingrained in everything that we do. If we look at again, maybe Andrew, for you, if we look at security, ethics, and data governance, what safeguards do you believe are in place to protect client data? Or what are typically the safeguards that DraftWorks puts in place to protect client data, especially when you're using AI and cloud tools? And then who ultimately owns the data?
Look, I think the first important thing is you've got to understand how your tools deal with it. DraftWorks has always got a local data first approach. We're very transparent with where the data is. If you use our cloud tools, you've got absolute assurance that it is within the Republic. We are ISO 27001 certified, so we we look after that data. But that's our view. And my view is that you should always try and use tools that keep that data local as far as possible. And that kind of leads you towards a policy or an understanding. Once again, it leads back to an understanding of, well, what is our approach towards AI? What tools do we allow? What tools don't we allow? Why do we allow certain tools and not others? I mean, the reality is your staff are probably using ChatGPT in your audits already, and they're probably using the free version, which is dangerous because there's no data privacy there.
Yeah.
It's still not great, but a paid version, at least you know that information is not being, or they tell us that that information has not been used to train other modules. It depends, I suppose, whether you trust the company or not. But it goes down to once again, I think you should own the data because it's your data. Your audit information is yours. The data that you've got from the client belongs to the client and needs to be treated as an asset, a high trust asset that is obviously belongs to them. So you need to look after it as if it was your own. And I think what has happened is we used to take client information, put it in a file, put it in a strong room, lock it up, put it in a fireproof safe. Now, because it's electronic, it's everywhere. It's on my flash disk, on my computer, on my firm cloud. Now, is it going to be owned by the AI company that's working with it as well? So I think generally, and I'm sure Christian would bear this out. I think a lot of audit firms need to seriously rethink how they think about audit evidence and how they think about client information, because we're really good at storing the piece of paper and making sure that it's protected, but we're really bad at looking after the electronic stuff. So I think that's my view. I think it needs to start with a basic principle. When we get the data, what do we do with it?
And I like the reference to having a policy, with ISQM1, it's very specifically one of the key elements of it is to have something written down that tells you ABC and tells you what are the requirements specifically for you as a firm, so that you have those guardrails like you referred to before as well. And Christian, maybe as a last question before we see if there's any questions in the chat, what elements do you believe such an AI policy must include to protect the firm and the client data and to maintain compliance with POPIA, making sure that we have our ISQM1 requirements in there, etc.?
So I think, Lynette, Andrew mentioned it, and first of all, it's the data handling rules. And it's not just your data, it's your client's data, what can and cannot be uploaded. Some tools, I don't think there will ever be a firm that just uses one AI. We've mentioned a few already. And some will be good at one thing and some are good at other things, and different ones might have different use cases. So it's being specific to staff and to firm and in the firm to say which data handling rules are we managed with which one. And then I think access management is just as important. Who can use which tool and why can they use that tool? Notebook LLM is maybe great at creating nice training videos. So then the training team can manage those. But you don't want your third year or your senior to create an audit later point and display that to management and say, look at the nice sketches I've made for you. So be clear around where the data is, access management, and then do your vendor due diligence. Like put that in your policy to say, we will only rely on certain security certifications. Where are they hosting the information and what are their retention policies? I think that is extremely important. And then after all of this AI is used, what are the human oversight requirements? We are seeing the start of the agentic AI, where it's starting to do things on behalf of us. And I think as a firm, if I was a partner at this point, I would start putting no unsupervised reliance on machine outputs definitely in that policy and make that clear to the firm. And ultimately, all of this has to be documented. So recording when an AI was used, how it was used, what conclusions from it was reached, and start including that as part of your documentation. So that when someone reviews it, they know and they understand, or they're looking at a person-typed email or a AI-typed email, and what was the expectations around that. So, and I do believe that if you don't govern AI or pretend that it's not used, Andrew mentioned it a little bit. I think it is used in every firm. Almost everyone uses it today. I think you do expose the firm to unnecessary regulatory and ethical risks. So I would start documenting that policy and giving a bit of guidance to staff.
Thank you for that, and thank you, gentlemen, for answering the questions so well and so eloquently. Yusuf, I see that the time is up, so I just wanted to confirm if there's any questions in the chat, and attendees, please feel free to put your questions in the chat for both Andrew and for Christian.
We'll pop in and answer them.
And you will pop in and answer in the chat. And yeah, thank you for this. And I think and do believe that it is everybody around the table here should realize and understand that, we can't shy away and hide away from AI anymore. It is part of what we are doing on a daily basis. And if we don't get in front of it, we are going to fall behind. So thank you very much, gentlemen, and for this discussion. I'm really looking forward to seeing what DraftWorks and Caseware is going to do in this space going forward. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yusuf.
Thank you.
And thank you, Lynette, to you and the panel for this thought-provoking discussion on AI and technology. I think your practical insights on, leveraging innovation as well as the risks that go with it, right, are invaluable for SMP is trying to navigate this automating transformation or digital transformation. Thank you again to you and the panel. On that note, I think we'll take a short break. We'll see you back at around 14:55 for the second half of our program. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. For those who are for second half of our program, for those who are just joining us, we now on our session on the auditing development program, and that is unpacking the monitoring process and addressing any misconceptions. For this discussion, I would like to introduce Zakira Mohammed. Zakira Mohammed is a chartered accountant, a registered auditor, and the ADP inspector in the Education and Training Department at the IRBA. Zakira, she monitors and assesses the audit firm's environment to ensure that they support the professional development of future registered auditors. Welcome, Zakira, and the floor is yours.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Yusuf, for that warm welcome. And it is with great honor that I take this opportunity to present to all of you today. I'd like to start off by just referring back to Mr. Naveed Lalani, the keynote speaker. He mentioned that one of the contributing aspects or contributors to audit failures is the lack of quality resources, human capital being one of those key resources. The Audit Development Program, known as the ADP, is designed to develop and produce competent and quality RAs into the profession, and the ADP monitoring process is an integral part of this program's process. Today's topic will focus predominantly on the ADP monitoring aspect of the ADP, and I will divulge to you today the purpose of the ADP monitoring, its process, what you can expect, and hopefully debunk any misconceptions you have related to this particular inspection from the IRBA and highlight some of the advantages that you can expect from this monitoring inspection. Next slide, please. So I'll start off with first giving you a bit of an overview of the ADP process. This will highlight to you where the ADP monitoring fits in, and also just to give you some context into where the monitoring fits into the whole program. So as you might be aware, there are two feeder programs into the audit development program, two pipelines. That is the SICA CA pipeline, as well as the ACCA RA route pipeline to becoming an RA. The prerequisites to joining the audit development program is that you have to be a chartered accountant, you need to be in a managerial or similar position at a firm, in a reviewing position, conducting and performing audits and gaining certain competencies in line with the IRBA competence framework. And once you are in that position, you are then eligible to register on the Audit Development Program. So once a candidate is registered on the Audit Development Program, this can be easily obtained from our website, where the application process is available to you under the ADP section. The program itself then comprises an 18-month period. So RCAs register on the program, they complete 18 months where they get key competencies in order to develop into competent RAs. And during that 18-month period, we facilitate both the IRBA with the firm, as well as a designated RA at the firm who oversees the candidate on the audit program. We facilitate certain submissions throughout the 18-month program to ensure that they are on track to becoming competent and quality RAs into the profession. So the first aspect of submission is within the 6-month mark, within the 18 months. And at the 6-month submission mark, we then trigger the ADP monitoring inspection. The ADP monitoring inspection will then be planned and scheduled with the firm. You'll have sufficient preparatory documents sent to you, as well as conducting a presentation from my end with my team to really elaborate and explain to you what to expect from this process. And that happens at the 6-month process. The other submission date is at 12 months, and then again at the end of the program, at the 18 months, the portfolio of evidence is then submitted by the candidate to the IRBA, who will then conduct the review processes both internally as well as externally. Once these review processes are conducted, if any comments are cleared by the candidate on the program, this then proceeds to our committees who approve the competence, as well as communicating to them that they have successfully completed the ADP, and this is when the RCA is then eligible to become a registered auditor. One thing I would like to highlight on this particular slide is that post the completion of the ADP monitoring, it's very important to manage your timelines as well as expectations with regards to when registration of an RA does ensue. So because of the very thorough and detailed review process that both occur internally at IRBA as well as by our external independent panel who assess candidates' competence, this process from registration, from completion of the POE or submission of the POE can take anything from 3 to 6 months until you are able to register as an RA. So please plan accordingly. Now that you have an overview of what the ADP process looks like, I'm going to now divulge with you a little bit more detail about the ADP monitoring process that occurs and is triggered at the 18-month mark. But just before we do that, there's one other aspect I'd like to speak to you about that you might find relevant to your firm, as well as your management group or candidates who are thinking about registering on the ADP program. Next slide, please. On the ADP program, we have something called the recognition of prior learning. So we call this the RPL. And what this is and who this pertains to are managers who have maybe been at a firm for an extended period of time post articles, but maybe decided not to register on the ADP program immediately. Now, these individuals would have had prior and extensive audit experience, already gaining many of the competencies in line with our IRBA competence framework and those expected to become an RA. So for these individuals, when you register or apply for the ADP program, you can indicate to us that you wish to apply for recognition of prior learning, RPL. Recognition of prior learning, we allow up to 12 months remission of the ADP program, which means that these candidates only need to spend 6 months on the ADP program in order to submit their POE, as well as to then swiftly become RAs through the process. How this links to the monitoring process, and something to bear in mind, is that for these individuals, the ADP monitoring is not triggered then at the 6-month mark due to the shorter duration. Once a candidate applies, especially for the full duration, the 12 months of the program, the ADP monitoring is then triggered immediately. And those terms and conditions and how-tos will be communicated to you clearly at that time. One other aspect linked to the recognition of prior learning is that sometimes we have individuals, managers or similar, who have worked maybe at multiple firms and are now applying for the ADP. If they are using evidence from multiple firms in that portfolio of evidence, then each firm within that evidence will need to undergo a monitoring inspection. So if I put this for you in an example, if you have worked at a PwC, then you moved over to a KPMG, you want to use evidence in your portfolio from both firms. Both firms need to have a valid monitoring inspection for our external panel to review that portfolio of evidence and to evaluate that particular manager's competence. Although this is a huge advantage for individuals who already are experienced within the field and want to now achieve or obtain the designation of RA. Next slide. All right. So now if we get into a little bit more detail with regards to the ADP monitoring process, and I am very excited and glad to see that there are many firms who have joined the call today that have actually undergone this process with me. So I hope you can stand testament to its positive input and values to your firm. But the ADP monitoring inspection, like I said to you, it is an integral part of the audit development process. It is also a mandatory element of the audit development program. Every firm that has registered a candidate on the program will be undergoing an ADP monitoring process. The objective of the ADP monitoring is really twofold. The first is its overall objective is that we want to evaluate the firm's environment and whether that is conducive to producing quality RAs into the profession. Now, this means that we want to ensure that these individuals are training in an environment where the firms are abiding by the relevant quality control standards and ISAs at the time. So the inspection then divulges into reviewing compliance with ISQM 1 and 2, as well as other quality standards and ISAs. We also conduct external validation of the competence achievement of the RCAs, the registered candidate auditors, on the program. So this is not an engagement level inspection. We do not give feedback on working paper conclusions, compliance with IFRS, and so forth. Even the validation within the files that are selected as part of the monitoring process is really just to ensure ISQM 1 and 2 principles are pulled through into the engagement files, as well as the infrastructure of the firms, and to also assess that and evaluate that the evidence produced by the candidates in the program are actually achieved by them and conducted by them on those particular engagements. So overall, it's to evaluate whether the environment is conducive to producing quality RCAs. Whether that candidate who qualifies to be an RA later on goes on to become a partner at the firm, or hopefully maybe start up their own firm one day, or whatever the reason it is, we want to ensure that they are instilled with the right quality standards and they understand it, they know how to comply in it, they've worked in it, and they will implement it going forward. And like I said, this is compulsory for every single firm on the ADP. Now, when it comes to what to expect with regards to the ADP monitoring inspection, we do understand that this does require quite a bit of work and intervention from both the firm side as well as us. And for that reason, we aim to provide firms with quite a significant amount of notice as to when the ADP monitoring inspection will be conducted. And we aim to give you this notice at least at a minimum. It's usually in advance of this, but at least 3 weeks in advance. We will communicate whether this inspection will be remote or face-to-face. We will also communicate exactly what you need to prepare and the submission deadlines by when those need to be submitted, as well as any interviews and so forth that will be conducted during the process. Prior to your inspection, I also hold a presentation for all firms that are due for inspection in a quarter to ensure that you guys are all feeling comfortable, that you understand what is expected from you, and to answer any questions that you may have related specifically to the ADP monitoring that will soon be conducted for your firm. The ADP monitoring inspection is conducted over a 2-day process. And during that 2-day process, the expectation is that the RA who facilitates and who develops the candidate, the RCA in their firm who's aiming to become an RA, we expect them to be available to us for those 2 days. And we also expect that the engagement file selected for review be available to myself for that inspection. At the end of the inspection, or at the end of the 2 days, we will then have a discussion, as well as a report will be submitted to the firm indicating to you what findings have come from this particular inspection. This final preliminary report is what we call it. This is then produced to our audit committees, who will then decide on what the outcome is on this of the firm. On the topic of discussing what the findings are with regards to the ADP monitoring, it is very important to note that the ADP monitoring inspection is a developmental inspection. Now, developmental means that this inspection from the IRBA is hugely advantageous to firms because these findings, they do not result in any fines or penalties for this inspection. However, the advantage of gaining this inspection and having candidates on the program is that these same findings, if you were subject to a similar inspection from our inspections department, could result in possible findings or penalties for the firm. Undergoing the ADP monitoring inspection allows us to be able to highlight to you where the gaps in your compliance with regards to quality frameworks and certain ISAs are, and gives you the opportunity to correct these before and if you are selected for any other inspection. All right. Next slide, please. All right. So as I indicated, at the end of the 2 days of the ADP monitoring, we will have a sit down and we will discuss the findings, and I will issue you the firm with a preliminary report, which is issued to our audit committees for approvals. During the audit committee approval process, there are 3 outcomes that can result from this particular from this particular inspection. We call these monitoring intensities, and there are 3 of them. There's a low, a medium, and a high monitoring intensity. For a low monitoring intensity, which usually means that either the firm had no findings from the specific indicators that we tested in line with the ADP program, there are no findings, or you may have had a few findings that maybe we do not consider to be of significant risk and can be easily attended to by the firms. For a low monitoring intensity, firms will only be revisited for another ADP monitoring within 36 months from the initial inspection. We only conduct these ADP revisits if at that time the firm has a candidate on the ADP program, and if within those 36 months, the firm registers an additional candidate on the ADP, and if they also submit a POE to us within that 36 months, it will not trigger another monitoring inspection. They will fall under that same rating until it expires. The medium monitoring intensity, this means there may have been a mixture of qualitative as well as quantitative findings arising from the monitoring inspection. It also means that there may be a combination of higher and lower risks that are coming out of it. These firms are revisited within 18 months of the initial inspection. Same rules apply to the above, meaning that if you register a candidate within the 18 months, and they submit within that 18 months a POE, it will not trigger another monitoring, but we will conduct a full 2-day revisit at the end of that 18 months if you have a candidate on the program still pending submission of a POE. A high monitoring intensity. Now, this monitoring outcome does result not necessarily in any negative indicators for the firm. However, it may cause certain delays for a candidate who is on the ADP program. The reason being is that for firms that have a high monitoring intensity, which means you maybe came out with many indicators of non-compliance with the quality control frameworks or ICEs, or many or few higher risk findings, these firms will be revisited within 6 months of the initial inspection. And this is because firms who have a high monitoring intensity, their candidates' POEs, we are not allowed to submit that to the external independent panel who assess the candidate's competence until they are dropped down to at least a medium monitoring intensity. So to avoid extensive delays, we revisit that firm within 6 months, and that inspection is usually conducted within 1 day, and the focus there is on how you have addressed and attended to the prior ADP monitoring findings. So there isn't the significant impact really from the high monitoring aspect. Is just that it may cause a delay for the RCA until the firm is able to tend to those findings adequately and to our satisfaction. And then that process goes through our audit committees for approval again. The delay comes in about because our audit committees meet on a quarterly basis. So your preliminary reports for each quarter is presented to our audit committees in a batch format. And this is then communicated to them. So if a firm comes up with a high monitoring intensity, that means you have 6 months to correct those findings. You may communicate with me if you are ready sooner than that, and I do my best to incorporate you within my planning. However, that means that that preliminary report will still then go to our next audit committee for approval until it is bumped down to a medium. Only then will that POE be evaluated for competence achievement, and that candidate possibly going through the process of being approved to register as an RA. So it's very important to understand these 3 outcomes with regards to the inspection, especially because we want to ensure a smooth process from start to end for both the firms as well as the candidates on the program. For all 3 of these particular outcomes and in your preliminary reports, I also provide you with very detailed and robust recommendations for each finding that comes out from this particular ADP monitoring to aid and assist the firms. And we are always available to assist with your queries and questions with regards to that as you progress. Thank you very much. Next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right, some very frequently asked questions related to the ADP and the monitoring process specifically is, will the ADP inspector review engagement files during the monitoring visit? So yes, as part of the monitoring procedures, as indicated, I usually do select 2 files per registered candidate auditor on the program. And this is selected from your portfolio of evidence, from your progress, from the candidate's progress reports. And in those files, as indicated prior, this is to ascertain compliance with ISQM 1 and 2, as well as other quality-related standards and ICEs within the file. I do not give feedback on IFRS compliance, conclusions and working papers and so forth. This is not an engagement level inspection. The only time I would ever comment on those aspects is if I can see that something is glaringly incorrect, or maybe it depicts a possible ethical issue, and that follows a different process, and that rarely ever happens on this particular inspection or monitoring inspection. So it's to check compliance with ISQM and to verify competence achievement by the RCA within the engagement files. So within the portfolio of evidence, RCAs are coached in order to say your competencies documented should refer back to certain clients. This is the competence verification that I will do within those sampled 2 files. Thank you. Next slide. What if the firm fails the monitoring visit? So as indicated prior, and a standing and very important point to denote, is that the audit development program's ADP monitoring process is completely developmental in nature. This means that you cannot pass or fail the ADP monitoring visit. You will come out with one of the 3 monitoring intensities, the low, medium, and the high. And we will give the firms an opportunity in order to correct those findings if you do come out with a medium or high or any particular aspects that you require development on. It is in the best interest of all firms to still correct and implement the recommendations and findings that we provide to you, because as I indicated earlier, while this inspection may come from a developmental aspect, some of the procedures and there is similarities within the inspection procedures performed here to others, and conducting the other inspections may result in actual penalties or fines for non-compliance. So it is in your best interest to attend to the findings, even though it is developmental, purely developmental in nature. So another quick aspect that I wanted to touch on with regards to this is, if your firm has ever been subject or selected for a firm level inspection from our inspections department, this also then aids the ADP process quite significantly, because we can place reliance on the firm level inspection, which reduces the amount of information that the firms need to supply to us for the ADP monitoring. So also mentioning that, it's important to disclaim at this point that undergoing an ADP monitoring inspection does not stand as a reference point or a disclaimer to firms for any other inspections achieved by firms from the inspections department at the IRBA. And that's because the ADP monitoring inspection is specifically tailored to test quality indicators that are in line with what we expect the ADP candidates as well as firms to comply with in order to develop competent RAs and professionals. Thanks very much. Yusuf, I think that actually I've swiftly gone through this presentation quite quickly. I don't know if there's any questions that I can take from yourself or the chat.
Firstly, thank you, Zakira, for unpacking the ADP monitoring process and obviously highlighting the importance of, I think,